everyone. Welcome back to Thought Crime and Keto and Crime. Today, I'm getting into who is David Warwick. This gentleman right here in front of us. Who is he? And I'm all equipment up because we're going to listen to a recording that was made after one of his speeches a few years ago to kind of get an understanding of who he is. Now, there's not a whole lot out there about his life, but I was able to come up with a few tidbits. But before we get into that, will need to do a little bit of housekeeping. Again, thank you so much for all the new subscribers, all the new channel members, all the new patrons. I appreciate everything that you guys do for me, and I want to give a shout out right now to my wonderful patrons: Corey Holmes, Zachary Reese, Kimberly Jolie, Kate Willett, Demeska Pasco and Chloe, Lauren Kirk, Sarah Carney, Andrea Lee, Tabora Summers Cooper, Stephanie Mertz, as well as my fabulous channel members: Kimberly Middleton, Joe Guitar, Katrina Middleton, Enigma X, Sherry Hendricks, Mary V. Sunshine, and Stephanie Mertz. Thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to join them, all those links are down below. You can hit the join button, the subscribe, which I haven't earned your subscription yet, please do that. Hit that bell for notifications. Patreon is also down below. It just helps me pay for things on the channel. I will try to keep the housekeeping short and sweet from now on. I know it's getting lengthy, and I apologize for that. But without further ado, let's get into David Warwick. Who is he? We know he is the boyfriend of Melanie Gibb. We know he's from Utah. We know he's a contractor. But what else is he? In fact, I was able to find the website for Warwick Construction, and you can easily find that. I'm not going to put it here because I think they're actually still in business, but it looks like he does home improvements and fresh builds, so that's been his family business for a long, long time. In fact, some of the reviews go back as far as 2001, 2002, so he's had that at least 15 years. So we know he does that, but by and large, he was also very big in preparing the people and avow networks. Now, I looked for some of his old podcasts, anything. In fact, when you go to the Preparing the People website, that website is gone. It is no longer there. All of their podcasts have been literally scrapped. You can even find the show notes. You can find a brief description, but they're gone. But from what we know, David Warwick was very high in this Preparing the People and Avow network. He had the same apocalyptic visions as Chad Daybell, Melanie Gibb, and Lori Vallow. In fact, I have proof of that. As you can see here on the screen, this is actually show notes from his podcast that I was able to find on charitable.com. And there's several episodes here, but from here on number 5, you see Feel the Fire, Part 2, David Warwick, Game Changer. What did David do for 3 weeks that changed his life as a young man? Did it get him the answers he was seeking? Was he confused? What can we all do? David gets raw and real about how to overcome manner of the flesh. And then back in Part 4, also talking about, I think he was talking to Melanie Gibb. David and Melanie discuss his spiritual development since he was a young man. Why would a young lady challenge his ideas about religion, God, and truth? So we know he is was very heavily in the LDS church, and then kind of went off on these fringe beliefs that so many others involved with this case have gone off to. I was able to find a few tidbits that said that he claimed to have been affiliated with gangs. I don't know what kind of gangs existed in Utah, but he says he was part of some of them, and they challenged him to do drugs, which he was able to avoid doing. And then he started having apocalyptic visions of the future, which is kind of the subject of the talk we're going to listen to kind of understand his beliefs. And here is another podcast description that kind of backs that up. Who was chasing David Warwick when he was a young man? Who was with him? What stopped them in their tracks? How did they both get the same impression at the same time? So I've had this is talking about his gang affiliation and possibly some demon chasing him as a kid. So you can see he had the same view of the supernatural as many others. And I have one more little screenshot here for you as well. And here is a advertisement or a posting in a group, Awaken to Our Awful Situation, from June of 2017. where David Warwick is going to be speaking at a Prepare the People conference in Rexburg, Idaho. So there you go. And it says, meet David Warwick, someone who went from gangs to the gospel, shares extensive visions when he speaks all over the western states about the Lord's mercy and patience through our trials, how adversity can bring liberty, and one of the topics at our Preparing a People conference. So this is, of course, prior to the conference they were attending on the final time that JJ was seen alive, but you can see he has a history of attending these conferences, and he was in Rexburg, we know right here, as early as 2017. So I am quite sure that he knew a lot about Chad Daybell and Tammy Daybell and everything going on with that network. So, because he was highly into it. And I do have some other information, kind of what is kind of an outline of a speech he gave, possibly at this conference. And I thought it would be fun to just kind of look over it so that we can kind of follow along with this recording that I have so that we know what kind of mindset he's in. And so here is an outline, or the notes, the minutes taken from a talk he did in May of 2016. I don't know where, possibly Rexburg, possibly anywhere in Utah or Idaho. But you have an outline of his speech, and I thought it would be interesting just to read through this so you understand his mentality and how he was just as caught up in this mess as Melanie Gibb or Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell. So, dreams and visions. First vision comes at age 14, not unlike Mr. Daybell. Thousands of angels descend onto the earth, not unlike Mr. Daybell. Mild earthquake shaking the ground, not unlike Mr. Daybell. A man in a red robe with hands wide open. He then knew it was the second coming and the first resurrection. He saw himself as an adult, so he's having visions of the future and the past, not unlike Mr. Daybell. Visions of gangs who were testing to see if he would take drugs. He refused. If he did take it, he realized they would have killed him, so I guess these were God gangs that were going to kill him if he strayed from the Word of God. It's kind of like Chad's God tear. He has a God gang. They pulled a knife on him. Some were his friends. He attempted suicide, cut his wrist, saw the inside of his body, and saw order and power. Okay. This is totally different than Chad. Chad has a God tear, but he never claimed to have seen the inside of his own body, as Mr. Warwick did here. The voice told him, you have lived before, you will live again. Your truth will present itself over the Bible, and that religion was for profit. And that's an interesting statement because it's obvious with a lot of these fanatics, they were trying to build their own religion. They were corrupting, trying to say that the existing LDS church was corrupt, and they were building their own. Also known as a cult. He was introduced to a girl at 17 years old. They courted. She was a member of the LDS church, as you can see. His first introduction to church was through basketball and scouts. I guess he considered himself a basketball player, much like Chad Daybell considered himself a world-renowned t-ball and baseball player. This girl asked him to come to church, and that he was in the same Bible class as her. And then we skip to yet another vision. He sees his 5-year-old self doing a puzzle of a prophet and 12 apostles. The lesson at the church showed a picture, and the prophet and the 12 confirmed to him the lesson was correct. So he's saying that when he went to church, they had a Bible school lesson where he saw a picture very similar to his own vision. Convenient. She asked him to go to a sacrament meeting. He hesitates. They sit with her parents. He said it was a fast and testimony meeting in which he was very touched. He notices all the great relationships that were around him. He was confused because he said he was still an atheist at this time. He's having visions, but yet he's an atheist. He saw the bishop's door open and went in and was asked, how do you know God exists? And the bishop asked him, how do you know he doesn't exist? Wow, you just cured atheism, Mr. Bishop. Wow. He opens the book of Mormon to Moroni. He wonders how such a boring life could bring such happiness. He has a dream to play in a band. Basically, he starts going to youth conferences. He has more of a pull from God. Then he said he was going to serve a mission. And then the word Zion captures his attention in the scripture. And then he said he was able to see Lehi. Remember Lehi from Jason Mowell's book, Dream? He saw his mother, and stepfather who were being baptized, and he went to the bishop to be baptized. So he went from atheist to devout Mormon in just a few days based on these visions he was having. This document's extremely long. I will link it down below so that you can read it. But basically, the rest of those pages talk about how he felt he was chosen of God because he had a vision of Jesus walking right up to him and telling him he was chosen. So he sees himself as a chosen one, not unlike Mr. Daybell. So all these people kind of have delusions of grandeur, it appears. And so maybe thinking back to the comments that Chad and Lori made to Melanie on that phone call during the trial, in which Chad said that he feels she's being led astray by David. Maybe there was some competition going on there between saviors and chosen ones. I don't know. But the plot thickens for sure. And then we're going to get to the part where he talks about the last days. And these are the same things that he's talking about in this audio clips, in this audio sermon. This is about an hour long. We won't listen to all of it, but we'll listen to enough of it so you can get a good understanding of where David Warwick is coming from. But it's very similar to what's stated here, because I'm pretty sure he gave the same speech that we're about to listen to. The speech that I have a recording of is from 2015. This is 2016. So I'm sure not much has changed. So he sees himself sitting at Cameron Park, California. He was singing. He said that a vision overcame him and everything went white. He wanted to be at peace from his wicked past. He felt robes by his sides. He felt hands on his head. Angels cleaned up all that he has experienced. He had another vision. He could see an image of a man. The man helped him up. His spirit re-entered his body. He saw angels singing with him. His entire memory was restored. The angels put them into the square and cast him back to earth. He realized that 7 evil spirits were with him and were cast down. Then he showed that all governments, the military, were secret combinations of these demons, starting with DC. DC is the heart of the demon conspiracy. He saw hundreds of people in on this conspiracy. He saw it all over the world, that they were having these combination meetings in England, Saudi Arabia, Australia. There were 6 black figures, dark and evil explosions. All the countries were in chaos. 6 key areas at the same time exploded. Could have been nuclear, may not have been. Islamic military attacked the United States with Russian equipment. U.S. military was asked to help. They didn't, so there's this whole world war going on, partially in the United States, partially in the rest of the world. The United States is refusing to help. France tries to help, but pretty much are beaten back, and another French Revolution ensues. The entire continent of Eurasia is spreading into war. The Pacific Ocean in North Korea declares war on the United States. The U.S. government basically cuts off communications with our military, and the military is overcome within 4 days. The entire United States military is overcome by foreign powers within 4 days. And then D.C. is collaborating with Russia, and then we get attacked and invaded. Not unlike Chad Daybell's novels. Foreign troops bang on his door. The spirit warns him to leave. He ends up in a new community with a camp. I suppose he's in one of those blue or white camps that we learned about in Chad Daybell's novel. And basically the U.S. falls and is absorbed, attacked by Russia, who also conquers China, Egypt, Israel. And basically, this is when the 2 prophets in the book of Revelation are killed. goes on talking more about the Russian invasion, but this is the most interesting part to me. Vision of white tent cities, not unlike Chad Daybell's. Building homes in the area, not unlike Chad Daybell. A earthquake splits the Cascade and Rocky Mountains, much like Chad Daybell's books. So as you can see here, everything he sends kind of lining up with Daybell. I'm not saying they colluded on this, but it's very similar, which leads me to believe they're all pulling these visions from the same pot. I'm not going to go through this entire document because it is huge, but you can see he's having very similar visions to Chad Daybell. And with that, I'm going to pull up this recording. It is an audio recording, and we're going to listen to it, and I'm going to react to it, and this will give you a nice sampling. But I will leave links where you can listen to this recording in its entirety down below. It's on another YouTube channel here on YouTube. And I will also leave this down below for you, either in a Dropbox or something else, but I'll allow you to, or I'll leave you the link to where you can find it online. So, because I think it's worth, it's kind of a companion to this recording. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Anyway, I just remember seeing him at this meeting, and I thought, what's he doing here? But anyway, so I'm just going to kind of talk fast. A lot of it's already happened, and so.
What? Can you skip to the future?
What's that?
The future instead of the past.
Yeah, I'm not. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to talk fast and just kind of tap. I'm not going to go into the wars that have already been, and
Can you give us a brief synopsis, though, of those events that you saw before they happened? Maybe just kind of to touch on them.
Actually, if you listen to his tape, they're on there,
Okay.
so you can hear it.
okay.
Right? Aren't they on the?
I wasn't sure what the question was. Sorry, I said it sounded good.
I wanted
wanted
to
to-
go through the synopsis of what you were shown before it happened, just real quick.
Yeah,
rather than just skip over it.
that's what he's gonna. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna avoid some details because it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
I want to try to just kind of get a foundation and then take it to where we're at now. Okay, so shows me the heart and secret combinations, Washington D.C. Then he takes me over to England, and then he shows me more secret combinations. Then he takes me down to Saudi Arabia, shows me more secret combinations. And then that's where I saw the Ayakoka and many of our government officials there. And I remember I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" It didn't fit. And then he took me over the Atlantic, where I could see all three bodies at the same time, and he said they're all the same, and the head is in Washington. So I saw that all three, they're being led from our capital. Then he took me we went back over the Atlantic, just west of England, and we're looking down in England, and I see 6 dark, evil, just darkness, just moving in 6 different places throughout England. And then terrorism type activities just came out of that, and it sent the whole country into confusion. And then I saw an Islamic military and Russian equipment, Air Force and Navy, invade from the south. And then England called upon her allies for help, and next thing I know, we're standing in with Congress, and the call comes, and we don't do anything. Our government decides.
I don't think there's ever a time where the USA would not give England help. That's just totally not a reality. And why would Russia start with England? They would just come straight across the Bering Strait into Alaska and go at us in Canada. They're not going to bother with England.
I couldn't understand. Well, why aren't we helping? This is our mother country and or one of our main allies. But we let them hang. France responds to the call, but before their military can get out of their western borders, they have.
So that's him talking about France, how they offered help, and then another French Revolution ensued, and they got called back. BS that Chad Daybell does, but David, that would never happen. And I don't think a second French Revolution is on the way either.
Just spread throughout Europe, down into Africa, and over into Asia. And then the next night, I'm standing over the Pacific, just west of California, where and I could see we could see Australia, from there into the Middle East, and then back out to North Korea, and that's where we were looking. And then an event takes place in North Korea, and I remember it was not a big deal. But our government made it a big deal and got the war drums going, and I saw that our military was spread out in the South Pacific and up into the Middle East. Then so they gather more forces here from the West, and then down to San Diego, and then they head up to North Korea. And then when our military entered into the international waters of communication, I don't know how they did it, but the communication was cut, where our military didn't know what happened to us, and we didn't know what happened.
So they somehow cut the lines that connected us to global communication satellites. Just okay, Dave.
You go out of Washington, D.C. to Moscow, and it basically just said, now. And then saw Russia, China, and several other nations attack us everywhere, not just in the Pacific, everywhere we were foreign and we were attacked. And our military that was outside the United States was overcome in 3 to 4 days. And then I saw Russia and China eventually come here. I don't know why, but it seemed like there was a 2-month, I don't know why, but it seemed like there was a 2-month span from the time that we were hit to the time they came to the coast. And so I'm trying to understand where that's coming from, because it doesn't seem to quite fit. But that was what was in my mind when I came to.
Did you see Americans stand up to that at all? I mean, to the invasions?
No.
What do you mean we were hit?
When they attacked our military out in the Pacific.
Oh, okay.
And
about 2 months.
other, basically we get attacked out there before they came here.
So when they come here, though, Dave, you don't see nobody stands up for anything, or am I the only one? I don't understand that logic.
Well, it's because President Clinton's voice.
Believe it or not,
President Clinton's voice was the one that came over the radio when the invasion took place. And he said, in order to save millions of Americans' lives, lay down your weapons. We do not have...
David, you mean Americans, the very ones that the Japanese were so afraid of in World War II, they wouldn't do a land invasion, wouldn't stand up to a full-out invasion. We have our militias trying to put down the rioting that's going on in cities right now. So you're telling me that the entirety of America wouldn't stand up to a foreign invasion? President Clinton? Really? You're still peddling this? This is like years old. Why are you even... These cult...
Basically, we were just told to take it.
nobody would listen to him anyway.
President Clinton said this, even though he's no longer the president?
Yeah, how do you make sense from that?
Does,
Because
because
he's the
that's
one
the
in
president.
authority.
At the time
Because
we
he
do it,
recognized,
Obama,
he would have
everybody's
recognized
gonna be
that's the president, I think, right?
He's, look how much power he's had just while Obama's been in. How many meetings has he taken over for Obama?
He's still alive.
They're all the same.
Yeah, he's making some serious decisions.
They're all
So it
the
doesn't
same.
matter that it was Clinton or Obama or whoever?
No,
No, but I was
It
Hillary-
was
it was his-
Hillary, she just had his voice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whoever's president, Obama, Clinton, Trump, doesn't matter. It's going to be Bill Clinton's voice. Sure.
It wasn't his voice.
Yeah,
it was
so,
And so, Dave, what's the timeline like on that? Did you kind of get an idea? Or did you give it an idea of that?
I just saw that we would be spread out in the Middle East when it happened. That was the main thing that stuck out. And we would have a lot of force in the South Pacific, which Obama, 3.5 years ago, announced Asia Pacific military strategy. Don't worry, no enemies. It's all strategic, just strategy. Well, it's not. It's sacrifice. We're going to be sacrificed.
What about the earthquake? It's a nation earthquake.
What's that? What earth?
So that was your second night?
That was the second night.
I'm sorry, Dave, one more time. In England, the dark forces you saw, what was that? You said they were Islamic dressed as Russians? Is that what you were saying?
Well, the invading force was Islamic in Russian equipment. So their Navy and their Air Force, their equipment was built by Russia.
Okay.
But it was filled with an Islamic military. And I felt that it was more than one nation.
How did you know it was Islam?
All Islam.
Did they have Islamic symbol? Were they all head covered? What led you to believe it was Islamic? And also, I think these people are starting to see for all the BS that he is.
That's how I remembered it. So if you watch what they're doing, they're always fueling the North Korean news. Just got it. They want to make sure the American people believe this is a real threat, and they're feeding it so that way when it comes time for them to pull that card, we're going to be, well, it's about time we do something about it. Let's go stop them before they hit us, because now they're supposedly testing long-range missiles that can reach us. So I see them building it up, and it's just a matter of, I don't know when they're going to do it, but so anyway, so basically, and then I saw that when there's all these wars, and basically the whole world seems to be under this one world army, and that I saw that most of the militaries throughout the world wore the same uniform, which told me that they were all unified, but they weren't good. And then I saw them leave America, leave South America, leave Canada, and the ones to the north went to Russia, and the ones to the south went to Australia. And then from Australia, they went up into China.
They went from Australia to China. Oh, what an idiot.
And from China over to Egypt. And the ones in Russia continued to go across until they got to Israel on the north end. And as they migrated, the force got quite large, but the one to the south was larger than the one to the north.
No Navy, just Army.
And so the earth is turning, and then as it was turning, the earth got darker and darker until Israel, the country of Israel, was lit up, and the rest of the world was in darkness. And then this personage
How did they
taught
see
me something about the Jews,
country if
which
only Israel had light?
I wasn't allowed to remember. I can feel it, but I don't know what he taught me. But when he taught me this, I felt so much love for them that my prayers were completely in their behalf. And then my heart was really heavy. Then the light returned, and then the vision focuses in on the military to the south, and I saw that they were in the form of celebration, and they were vulgar, just really heartless people, and they were really excited about what they were about to do. And I knew Israel was going to be getting hit hard.
As you can see, David is a master, just like Chad Daybell, of weaving current events into his vision. Yeah. And how long was this vision, by the way? You're having a vision much like John did when he was in exile, when he saw the book of Revelations. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the end so we can listen to that, but I highly encourage you to listen to this whole recording. It's
full time. Why did this happen? You know what he said to me? He said, now you understand my work. No. Because I hired people, and I put one guy who was a returned missionary, and I thought he could be trustworthy, and he turned out to be a drug dealer, and my trucks were being used to do drug runs out of Modesto. To make a long story short, we had drive-by shooting threats. I was IRS, Workman's Comp, Sheriff's Department. I was being hauled in for questioning for this or that. And like I said, I went from having a reputation as this awesome builder to, he's running a drug ring. He's all this stuff. And we were spread out from Sacramento to South Lake Tahoe. And so And my heart was crushed because I was helping my mom who wasn't getting child support. I was helping my brothers and sisters learn trades, and I was getting people off of drug rehab. I was like literally making Zion out of my business. And
With that, I'm going to stop. He actually thought he was creating Zion with his construction business. So there you go, the arrogance and insanity of David Warwick. As I said, I'll put links to this entire recording down below. I'll put a way for you to read that transcript as well so you can kind of follow along. And yeah, that's David Warwick, just as nutty as Chad Daybell. Now, whether or not he knew anything about Tylee and JJ, I can't say, but I do know he is cooperating with law enforcement. So there you go. A little foray into the mind of David Warwick. Next week I'll be back with you with the Hacienda sexual abuse scandal, as well as a deep dive on Jason Mao, and probably another white-collar crime case for you. But until then, please stay safe. Love you all. Keto and crime. Until next time, Keto Comic.